Hey, Kalal.
And sugar and share.
Yeah, you can wait if you want.
Oh,
If you want to play around on it, might as well wait, and then you can just.
Oh, look at that. That is Kalal's ceiling. Look at those decorations on that ceiling.
Hi, Kalal.
That's pretty cool. Oh, he got frozen. There he is.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Oh. Your candy?
Ugh, not candy.
Hello, Kalal. Burn your mouth.
It's hard to more two on it.
Mm-hmm. Further into the center you go, you better put it in like some water. No, not that. A cup of water. There. Hannah's eating a full clove of garlic over here.
It's huge.
Yeah, your dad, Hannah, when I was living up there, he told me he did that as a remedy, and so he convinced me to do the same thing. And oh man,
Dr. Schaefer was a medical doctor here in Colorado. He used to tell us to take cloves and whiz them up with a little bit of, it was a little bit of oil, but mostly water, and kind of make a drink out of it. But it was a lot of garlic. Oh, burn. Burn your stomach. In fact, first time I tried, I'm like, oh man, I eat hot peppers all the time. Never bother my stomach, but that garlic hit me like a truck.
Yep. That's a whole different ball game right
I
there.
think you'd have to work up to it, get your stomach, you know.
Yeah, with it. So.
Yeah.
Makes me think of horseradish. Horseradish
Oh,
has
no.
got a real.
Sorry, I'm not doing
No.
horseradish. I don't know.
I was making super tonic and it called for horseradish, and I just chopping it up made my eyes burn like I've never burned before. It was crazy.
Yeah.
At least I like garlic, just not in that quantity.
I should make some lemon garlic tea. That'd be good.
So, Kalal, are you able to hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear now.
Very good. Nice to see you again.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity.
We are seeing your house, looks like.
Yeah.
I was noticing your ceiling is very pretty. We have boring ceilings in America.
Yeah.
So, Kalal, do you live in a city, a town, or a village?
Right now I'm in village.
The village.
But, yeah. But I live in Midtown.
But not the city. How's the virus over there in Bangladesh still not affecting Bangladesh?
Yes, sir. It's much spreading now, and it's spreading so fast in Bangladesh.
Wow.
And they are just making a lot of lockdown. And I heard that in news that they will they will remove the lockdown for several days. The people may, because all are very sad, and they are thinking that if they move the lockdown, then people will come from the city to the village, and the village people will go to the town, so it will much spread that time.
Oh yeah. God, it smells good. Need some butter though. Hi, Shirley. Welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I heard you for a second. Back up, try it again. I think you have to press your mute button, Shirley.
Okay, I am unmuted now.
Now I
Okay,
can hear you.
thank you. My son is on with me as DJ.
Very good. DJ is his name?
Yeah, well, he goes by DJ. His actual name is Darwin.
Oh, okay. Well, glad you're with us.
Did you hear Bobby? Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
So
Tonight we're planning to do justice
talk
and
to you later.
mercy.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, I see DJ's name up there.
Yeah. I went to your Seek God's Character website.
Did you get there okay?
I did. Well, I did. I don't know how I got there because my son got there. I mean, I gave him the way it is in the email. It says .org. He couldn't log on that way. He couldn't get on the site. He put .com and then he could get on.
Yeah, I think we found that out last week. Maybe we didn't get that changed yet. So
It is changed now, but yeah, probably when you tried it hadn't been fixed yet.
I
So,
sent him a copy of the email that I received.
yeah.
And so he didn't get that, but
that's what I mean. The copy on the email, John. Did we change it on the email yet?
Well, we didn't need to.
It's you can get there both ways.
Yeah, now you can get there both ways. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Either .com or .org. Yeah.
how many people do you have get on?
Last week we had what, about 12? 10?
For the Thursday meeting, yeah, about that much.
Yeah, we started the Thursday meeting at the request of one of the study group people there in Oregon. And so we're doing Saturday night, we're doing a Thursday night. And then we're also doing Sabbath morning at 10:30. And then we have, for those that have been part of our study for a while now, we have a discussion kind of just for them in the afternoon on Sabbath, because we trying to delve into bigger, deeper stuff so we don't lose those that want to begin. So we're doing the beginning meetings twice a week, and then we have, you've been to the meetings quite a bit, Shirley. So the other meetings that we're doing are Sabbath at 2:30 is when we're doing. We're going to work on prophecy questions probably. Last weekend was the weekend that was scheduled to be at Amber's. And so last weekend we were not able to go to Amber's, but we did it online here. All weekend we went Friday night and then 2 on Sabbath. And that was about Revelation 7, 14, 7 and 14, and 1 John, a few other things there. So we were working on the 144,000 a little bit.
Okay, wow. We've been doing that with a group here.
Good.
You know, I'm in North Carolina now.
Oh, you moved.
I moved. I sure did. That's why you haven't seen me for a while.
Oh, that is true. We haven't seen you for a while. Well, good. Now you can connect this way.
Yes, I think that this Zoom thing is a tremendous tool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm a little awkward on it still because I'm used to seeing everybody's faces right in the room. And now I'm like, oh, wait a minute, where's everybody? But we'll get it figured out here maybe after a few weeks.
Yeah. DJ, Darwin doesn't have access to a computer with video.
Oh, that's okay. Audio works great. We have quite a few that don't get on. They don't use their video.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So you must be in Colville?
Yeah, well, Chewelah, which is just south of Colville.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Pretty decent up here. Not a lot of people live up here, so our traffic feels really low right now because nobody's supposed to be moving around. So you got on the road and like nobody's there.
Right. I go into Boone, North Carolina.
Yeah.
It's a college town, and because the town is down in the mountains, there's no room for the town to expand.
Oh.
And the traffic when the students are there is really a challenge for me.
But they sent all the students home now, right?
They're home now, right?
Oh.
So it's nice to drive in Boone right now.
Nobody's there. Yeah, we better make up some garlic lemon later.
Okay.
Well, so yeah, we'll start here and we'll probably give it until 6:32 or 3. Let people get on.
Well, I thank Jonathan and I guess you go by Galaxy for making this a possibility too.
Yeah, Jonathan. He's the one with the picture drawing up right now.
Yeah, he's hiding. So have you stayed pretty well free of corona issues in Colville area?
No, we have a few cases now. I forget the number, maybe 5. It's not a lot. But found out today that the first 2 people that were diagnosed with it, I actually know them. They work with the school district. Anyway, one of them is a lady, and she's, I guess, housebound now till end of what'd they say? April, end of May. So she can't even go get groceries. Do have to bring them to her. That's pretty locked in.
But she's recovered from it.
I don't know that she's having major issues. She had some symptoms and was tested right away. And anyway, probably the worst thing we have in this area is one little retirement center south of us, about 30 minutes or so. Someone must have brought it in while visiting a family member or something, and then it was going through that whole place, and I haven't heard an update, but I'm not sure how many of them could survive it.
And that's the elderly.
Yeah, it's an elderly home. I think there was
Mhm.
maybe 30 that lived there,
Mhm.
but I haven't heard an update. Looks like we got Shady on. Hi, Shady.
Hello.
How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
Good. I caught it a little bit late. What's going on over there?
Oh, nothing. Shirley was just asking me if we have very many cases of the virus here in Colville, and it's not very many.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, it's still pretty slim.
Good.
But now we do have, even in this little town, we do have the line where you can't let more than like 20 people in the store. So you got to kind of be there in line outside if you want to get in line 6-7 feet from people, and then you get to go in on a schedule. So now I was like, oh, try to avoid the store if we can.
It's kind of like that here, but it's only in Pendleton. It's only Walmart that's doing that. Safeway, Bi-Mart, that's all fine. We went to Home Depot in Walla Walla last weekend, and they had that as well.
Yeah, Home Depot's got it. Here in Colville, it's just the big grocery store. Walmart and I think Super One is doing it now. Safeway's not doing it yet.
How big is that town that you're in?
That's a good question. Colville, let me look that up.
Like, you have more stores than Pendleton?
No, I'd say it's smaller than Pendleton.
Oh, really?
I think. Let me look it up. And you can tell me.
Well, the biggest chain store in Colville is Walmart. So.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's kind of like here.
Oh, this is fancy here. What is this?
I was in Klamath Falls before I moved to Pendleton, and I was like, oh, it's fine. I'm from Klamath Falls. And then I get to Pendleton, and I'm like, oh, it's smaller than Klamath. But I grew up in a town that only had 350 people in it. So, I mean, I guess either way, every town I've been in since then has been bigger. But
So the official population of Colville is 5,000.
okay.
But we have probably more than that live outside the city limits in the surrounding hills, mountains, so probably it's at least double that, if not more.
Yeah.
In 2018, Pendleton was almost 17,000.
Yeah, that's big. That's big for us. Well, so what are we looking at? 35 after. We probably should get started just to be polite to all those that jump on in time. Everybody, if you don't know Kalal, he's in my upper left-hand corner. Kalal is from Bangladesh, and some of you have heard us talk about helping Bangladesh out, helping Kalal out, and trying to go there on a mission trip soon. So he's with us all the way from Bangladesh. So when he unmutes and talks, if it's a little slow and glitchy, it's a long ways from here to Bangladesh.
Is that Galaxy A50?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where you were gonna go before all of this, right?
Yeah. We were gonna, just when the COVID scare started, we were booking flights to go to Bangladesh, and then we thought, well, we better pause for a little bit here and just see what happens. So hopefully we'll get there soon. But nice to have Kalal on with us. Okay, let's have a word of prayer and we'll dive in tonight. And I think we've only got a couple of people on the call that have not seen this at all before. Shady, you've seen it 1 or 2 times maybe?
Yeah, once.
Yeah, once. Okay, so it'll be a good review. And we'll be able to go through the basic diagram fairly quickly tonight, and then we can dive into deeper questions about it. If those of you who've seen it before, be thinking of where you want to go with questions before we're done tonight. Rich, does your microphone work?
Just a minute.
He's on.
Back. Yeah, would you have opening prayer for us, Rich?
Is my mic on?
Yeah.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this opportunity to meet even Tuesday to discuss justice and mercy. And I just pray that your Holy Spirit will be with each and every one of us and guide us and direct us in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Rich. Okay, so last Thursday, or John, before I start, is there any announcements we should make?
Oh, just there is no Friday meeting,
This week.
and then this week, and then we are doing the Sabbath
10:30 on Sabbath.
at 10:30, and then the afternoon at 2:30.
Right. So the afternoon meeting at 2:30 is intended primarily for those who have been studying this for a while with us, so we can dig into prophecy questions and whatnot. The 10:30 will be starting at the beginning again at Love, Forgiveness, Healing, and Wrath. So the idea is that if you guys invite people that have not seen these before, we'll do them from the beginning and kind of keep going around. So Sabbath at 10:30 and Thursday evening at 6:30 are both kind of doing that. We're going to do the gospel basics. But we can always go anywhere we want with the questions with the group that's here. So, okay, justice and mercy. Last week we talked about love, forgiveness, and wrath. And wrath is always, to me, one of the most exciting, but also one of the most important pieces. I guess I should look over here more. One of the most important pieces because it's so different than we usually have heard about God and the big almighty God and his character. So justice and mercy is intended to take what we started about God's wrath and look at it in a little more detail. So we're not leaving the subject of love, forgiveness, and wrath. We're just going on and adding more. So, see, let me just click this. Yeah, okay. So justice and mercy, and this group is small enough. I don't mind if you guys want your mics open. It kind of helps me feel like it's more of a discussion. You're welcome to turn your mic off if you've got noise in the background and want to just unmute it at certain times. But I'm not particularly excited about monologues. So if you guys want your mics open and just kind of join in discussion with me, let's try it. Feel free to do it. But to go through the concept that we want to build about justice and mercy, it's really about understanding God's judgment. Typically in Revelation, we have this verse that says, fear God, which we think means be afraid of him. Fear God and give him glory, for the hour of his judgment has come. And I sort of learned that growing up as a scare thing, that God's about to judge me, so I better get my act together. So we're really wanting to dive into judgment. We're not going to say by the end of the discussion tonight that God is not the almighty judge, so to speak. It's about how he judges, with what, not just with what attitude, but with what method. I think court procedures, I don't know, I'm particularly sort of interested in those, how they work. I sit in court sometimes and just kind of watch, and the court of the land. So it is good to figure out how God's court works, his system, how he's going to deal with figuring out which sinners are going to go into eternity with him and which ones are not. So that's a quick sort of overview, and we're going to build the concept this way. The top of our drawing there on the left side, we're going to put the word convict, because we're going to talk about kind of how our court normally works first. And the way we have it is we have a convict. Now, a convict isn't somebody that maybe did something. A convict is somebody that's been proven. So we're not going to deal with how that got proven tonight. Just the assumption that if it's discovered that they're 100% guilty, we'll just put to the right of the box maybe 100% there to remind us. that we have conviction 100% guilty. And once it's discovered or determined that they're 100% guilty, then the question is, how does the judge and judgment work? So convict has already been found guilty, and what comes next is called the sentencing, at least in this country. That convict is brought before the judge, and the judge is going to determine, now that they've been found guilty, what should be done with this guilty party. So we're going to keep it simple, and then if you want to make it more complicated with your questions, we'll let you jump in here in a sec. But start simple. The judge has two options. He can either send this man to jail or set him free. And those are kind of maybe extreme options, and we can talk about many variations of options. But the idea is these are going two different directions. One is down the path of punishment, put them in prison. The other one is just the concept of leniency. So justice, by the dictionary definition in English, justice is to receive what you deserve. I think one of the ways the dictionary says it is the due penalty, the penalty equal to the crime. And mercy, via the dictionary, mercy is to receive a lighter sentence, not what is deserved, in the lenient direction, right? So if they're guilty, they don't deserve to go free. And of course, right away, we've got kind of a question about whether it's safe for the rest of us if you let them go free. But this is the basics idea of how we currently use justice and mercy, the words. Anybody want to add anything to that to sort of fill out our concept of how the judge or justice system works? And maybe it's different in Bangladesh. That might be interesting. How does this work in Bangladesh? Do you have convicts in Bangladesh?
In Bangladesh?
Does that make sense, Kalal? Is that similar to how you would expect it to work over there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, anybody got something they want to throw in way of adding to or clarifying how our on earth idea of justice and mercy work?
I think in Bangladesh about the justice and mercy, yeah, it needs, and it's just not much developed yet here in Bangladesh.
Most systems of court, and I'm not familiar with all of them around the world, but I think generally the dilemma that we're always trying to work with is how do you get to what you deserve part? Like, how do you have the right amount of justice and the right amount of mercy maybe mixed together, or are you going all justice, no mercy? So that's kind of the dilemma, is how do we blend those two together? How do we make them cooperate together? And so typically, and I'm going to refer again to how I saw this working when I was a child or younger. You know, I was trying to figure out, well, how in the world is this going to get figured out at the end? Some of us are going to be lost, and some be saved, and 100% guilty. Well, I read in Romans that I'm 100% guilty, so I was in trouble. And now, how is the justice and mercy of God going to work? And really, to understand Him as loving, as we like to say that we believe He's loving, but if He's loving, then how does justice and mercy kind of work out in His court system? Now, for those of you that like prophecy stuff, it does say, not only in Revelation about His judgment, is time for His judgment has come, but in the Old Testament, there'll be a lot of verses about Him sitting on His throne of judgment, sitting on the judgment seat. And it'll talk about things like justice with no mercy, having no more mercy for them. And so it kind of built in my mind the idea that God, when he kind of, well, from last week's study, when he kind of runs out of patience and gets tired of dealing with the sinners, then we're going to be no more mercy. It's going to be full swing ahead on the justice. And that was kind of what I was struggling with. So anybody got something you want to pitch in before we start working on the right side of this chart
Bobby,
here? Yeah.
Bobby, one way that it can be looked at is either you are looking at it from punishment for the wrong, or you look at it from rehabilitation.
And on the left side of the chart, there's not really a discussion about rehabilitation, is there?
No.
We kind of, we make the assumption that jail should rehabilitate, but we all know it doesn't necessarily. Maybe in a few cases, but it's very slim. But that's as far as we get with the rehabilitation concept on our drawing on the left. So you're right. To work on the correct perspective, we're going to have to get that in there. Okay, anything else about the left side here? Thoughts or questions? Okay, so on the right side of our drawing now, we're going to detail out a biblically based account of how it works with God. And it will come out different. Instead of a convict in the scripture, they're called a sinner, right? All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That is, not only have all of us in quantity sinned, but all of us individually have sinned completely. All have fallen short of the glory of God. No one is, it doesn't really do any good to be sort of figure out, well, I'm a partial sinner. Well, no, we were born with sinful nature. Well, it is what we love naturally. So 100% guilty, we can put on the right side there of that drawing as well. And this is where the difference begins. And I want some help here from you pitching in, especially if you haven't seen this before. If you want to pitch in your opinion, we like the opinion just because it helps remind us of what we maybe thought before or what we should reconsider. So don't feel bashful. This isn't about getting it right or wrong. But in the next box down below, the question is, we're going to start with who is the judge when we get to this fear God and give him glory, for the hour of his judgment has come. Who is the judge? Shady?
God.
God the Father? God the Son?
All three.
All three. We're going to do it cooperatively, I guess.
Father. God the Father.
God the Father. Yeah, it is kind of interesting because when we start to think about which one we'd rather have, what are we going to pick? If we get to choose.
Jesus.
Satan is the accuser.
That's true. Satan is the accuser. We don't even have him drawn in here. We'll worry about that a little later, but you're right. Jesus is not the accuser. The question is God the accuser? Does God somehow participate in that accusation? Again, that old idea of he's looking out with his all-seeing eye to determine whose book is not cared for or whose account is not cared for. And when he finds one that's guilty, okay, now he's going to go to work on it. And we imagine that as a terrible, scary thing usually.
I'd have to say that might be more than just imagination. I thought it was how it worked when I was growing up in like grade school, late like 8th grade. I literally remember having nightmares about the judgment day and God calling out all my sins before the entire universe, one by one.
Mm.
I don't know if anybody else had that thought, but it was just.
Charlie and I must have gone to the same school.
I feel like I still feel that way.
You still feel that way sometimes. Okay, that's fair.
I do something and I'm like, oh.
All right, let's do some Bible verses here to help us determine who is the judge. The first one is going to be, and we can just write it on the side right there, John 5. So JN 5:22 somebody would look that one up for us and read it to us.
John.
I have it here.
Again,
Okay, go ahead, read it.
It says, "For the Father judges no one, but has committed all judgment to the Son."
Father judges no one. He's going to let Jesus do that. So actually, if you were feeling like you would rather have Jesus doing it, we got some good news for you here in this verse. Jesus promised when he was here that his Father would not be the judge in the end, that he was going to let Jesus do that. Do we like that? Any thoughts about that? I know it's a big deal, especially like Charlie was mentioning the way we grew up. I don't remember that verse. That would have been an exciting verse in Academy to find out that Jesus was going to get to do the judging. I've thought about that from the perspective of imagine the woman thrown at Jesus' feet for adultery. Her version of understanding prior to that day was that God was behind the Pharisees and their program in seeking out the sinner, capturing them, and then throwing them at Jesus' feet to be dealt with. And so she would have thought the Father, that's how the Father was. So for her to hear this idea that the Father's not going to judge anybody, he's going to let Jesus do that, for her, that would have been very exciting news. How about anybody else? Anybody else remember when you first started to look at that verse and verses around it in the context of how it helped you, what it did for you, what you thought before?
I think I still struggle with they're the same in mind, but they're three different.
Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this brings me back to is that right that they're the same in mind, all three, but they're three different entities?
Yep. They're united, or they're in unity in regards to their thoughts, their feelings, their desires towards you. Yeah, so they have the same mind. What this verse should do for us, Shady, is rather than leaning towards an imagined version of the Father and how he's going to come after me as a sinner, when we think about them having the same mind, it's going to be more like that version or like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's what this verse should do. It should tell us that, well, they are one in spirit, but don't confuse the spirit as being any different than Jesus already showed us. For instance, when you and I fail, we lose our temper, we talk unkindly, something that's from our sinful nature. We can go back to those stories about Jesus working with Peter, working with this woman that was thrown at his feet. How about the heathen woman at the well? I mean, she wasn't even really seeking righteousness. She was just happy in her sinful ways, as far as we know. But watch his kind approach to their sinful problem, to their sinful nature. From there, we can find assurance when we read it again, remember it again, or whatever we need to do. Assurance that that's going to be the approach he's going to have towards us, because we're like them.
Mm-hmm.
Is that helpful?
Yes.
So this verse is kind of short, but it's very large. When we come at it from the perspective of what is this judgment about? What is it like? And here's what you don't see Jesus doing. Jesus does not climb up on the judgment seat when he was here, like the Pharisees liked to do. That was one of their favorite activities. We don't see Jesus sitting in condemning judgment over people. In fact, John 3:16 can be the next verse we put up there to help us out. We all know that one, right? God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, so that whoever believes in him would not perish. They're getting right to the end of the story, not perish. And what does the next verse say? Someone quote the next verse. That'd be verse 17.
For he came not to condemn the world.
He came not to condemn the world, but instead to what?
To save the world.
Save and rescue. So you'll notice that those who were rejecting him, rejecting his salvation, he doesn't spend a lot of time chasing them down the road and trying to let them know how terrible the people they are. They're invited back the next day, come out on the hillside and watch 5,000 get fed. Or the next day when he's teaching parables in the temple and talking to the priest. Or the next day, you know, when he's there on the cross, right, all the way through. They're all invited. All us sinners are invited to come and watch and see Jesus in action. And what you won't see anywhere in the story is him sitting in this, looking down his nose, condemning, judgmental, critical, judgment kind of activity anywhere in the story. Now, you do see that in the Pharisees. Again, that was their sort of regular activity, but they were on the wrong program, right? All right, any other thoughts about 3? We should do maybe verse 18. Let's add 18 to that. Someone read the next verse. Whoever'd like to, go ahead.
He who believes in him is not condemned, but he who does not believe is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God.
Okay, good. And we'll save 19 for a little bit later, but getting the idea that there is a way that this can all get worked out, but it's not in our old way of thinking. So we're going to go to another verse now. John 5:22 told us that the Father judges no one. He's going to let Jesus do all that. Now we'll go to John 12:46 and 47. 46 and 47. Somebody read this verse for us.
John 12,
John 5:12.
46.
I am come a light into the world, that whosoever believeth on me should not abide in darkness. And if any man hear my words and believe not, I judge him not, for I came not to judge the world, but to save the world.
Okay, so this is repeating the same exact thought in John 3. So we're right back to the same topic, only totally different chapter in John. This is much later in Jesus's ministry time. And he adds it once again that he did not come to judge and condemn, but he does include here again that this isn't about the Father judging, right? So if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. They're there together somehow doing this. So Shirley, what's our next verse so we can nail down who the judge is? Who is the judge?
48, you mean?
Yeah, because 46 and 47, I mean, we take John 5, the Father is not going to judge. And then John 12, it says that Jesus is not going to judge either. So now we've got neither of them judging. If you watch those two verses kind of back to back. Now don't let me let you think either that we're supposed to take these all out of context. Best to go back over these verses, read the whole chapter that they're in, the whole chapter 3 and the whole chapter 12, and see if it presents it in any different way. I'm just giving you the quick summary. So what does verse 48 say, though? Help us out there.
He that rejecteth me and receiveth not my words hath one that judgeth him. The
Okay,
word
good.
that I have spoken, the same shall judge him in the last day.
So there is a judge, but who is the judge, Shady?
The
Is
word.
it the person? Like it would be me making my own.
Well, that's true. We are going to get there. But that verse said that the word which I have spoken, anybody else's version different that makes that interesting? Right there, the word that I have spoken.
The NLT just says truth.
The truth which I have spoken, is that how it is?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Anybody else's? Amplified would say the message that I have delivered. So altogether there we have the idea of the message, the truth, the word, right? So what he taught us is what's going to judge you. Is that what that's saying?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anybody else have a different thought?
But this says the one who rejects me is the
Right.
one who gets judged.
Okay.
So
But
for
notice,
us,
can you read us that whole verse just to review that?
there is a judge for the one who rejects me and does not accept my words. That very word which I spoke will condemn him at the last day.
Okay, good. So it is telling us there is a judge, but who is it saying the judge is?
The word.
The word. which again is kind of interesting because we're used to thinking of the judge as a person. And I'm going to suggest for a minute again that this verse is saying the message or the truth he taught. What was the truth or message, kind of the most important center core of what Jesus taught, that in this verse then would be the judge? Anybody can pitch in, help us summarize what was.
Well, the main thing Jesus is talking about is that he wanted those around him to believe that the Father had sent him.
Good.
That he came from the Father.
So it was about this connection about him and the Father. And what about them was
that they were one and the same.
that they were one.
He came to show us the character of the Father. He
Good.
came to show us who the Father was, that God the Father was not who Satan had purported him to be.
Made him out to be, right.
Made him
Good.
out to be.
So summary then, the whole thing at its core was come to know and understand what God's really like. Would that be true?
Yes.
Good. God the Father and God the Son. And then later it's even going to add in the Holy Spirit, right? He reminds you of everything Jesus said. He's the same Spirit. They're of the same Spirit. So let's put in this box then, see if you like this. Does this work? We're going to put the judge is actually the truth about God, particularly the Father, but it must include Jesus as well. Because that verse, if that's correct, that gives us a very different perspective on how the judgment activity works. Instead of God picking and choosing, either arbitrarily, or some will say, oh, no, it's not arbitrary. He has a list of, standards, and those that don't live up to those standards, he picks them to be lost. And those who live up to the standards, he picks them to be saved. But you still have the same activity of God making a determination with sort of a critical eye versus what Jesus seems to be so focused on when he was here for those few years that he was here. Anybody else thoughts about this? Who is the judge part?
Yeah, Bobby.
Yeah.
From verse 48, it starts out, he that rejecteth me. When you come into truth is just a fact. It's reality. It's just there. It's how I relate to that truth. So in a sense, I feel like I'm condemning myself.
Okay. So let's, for that, go back to John 3. You can hold your finger at John 12, go back to John 3, and again, Shirley, why don't you read it this time, that verse 18.
Okay, let me find it. Okay, John 3. You want me to read 16, 17, and 18?
Do just 18 first. Let's grab that, and if we need to, then we'll back up.
Okay. He that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he hath not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God.
So usually this verse, we read John 3:16. We like 16 and 17. We don't often read this verse because when we're just getting going in John, this verse seems a little confusing. But here's my question, Shirley. Did that say the same thing you were just saying?
I think so.
So in John 12, it puts it in the negative, right? It says, he who rejects me has one that judges. And in John 3, it's saying those who believe, they are not judged. Am I making that up?
Yes, you said that right.
Okay, so it's kind of interesting because they're really saying, again, John 12 and John 3, both of these chapters have a lot to do with sort of the judgment activity. And I find it interesting that Jesus says it in slightly different ways to help make sure we don't miss it. So in the end, we're going to question or challenge now, does it come out the way you said, Shirley, about we pass judgment on ourselves? If no one else has any more to add to the truth about God piece, let's add a few more things.
I've just been reading something here.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just looking in John chapter 10 and verse 22 through 30. It's a section called "The Shepherd Knows His Sheep." And verse 24, they say, "How long do you keep us in doubt? If you are the Christ, tell us plainly." Jesus answered them. So this is on the kind of just thinking about, is it the words that judge or is it Jesus judging? So Jesus answered them, "I told you, and you do not believe." So he'd already spoken the word, but they didn't believe it. "The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me." So they're bearing witness of what he'd already said. "But
Tell
you
us
do
again,
not
Charlie.
believe."
Hold on, Charlie. Can you tell us again so we can all get there? John 10, 22 through what?
22 through 30.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm
Keep
at
going.
verse 26 right now.
Okay.
10:26.
So,
So, but
Oh, yeah.
you do not believe because you are not of my sheep, as I said to you. So it's interesting that aren't we all called to be his sheep? Aren't we all called to follow? It's not like he's only saying it to some. They heard the words, and yet they chose to close their ears to it. It wasn't that he didn't speak the words of truth to them. Verse 27, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. Neither shall anyone snatch them out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one."
Good. That's actually a perfect description, Charlie, of our next box down on the left, right? We're going to put the word grace in there because we're referring here to God's, see, what was that word that Shirley used? Was it rehab? Rehabilitation?
Rehab, yeah.
A way to fix the problem. If we have no way to fix the problem, then this is a exercise in futility to just keep going year after year and we can't have the problem fixed, right? So somewhere in here, we're going to have God's grace, which is his sort of reform school, the way he heals us and changes us. And what is the result of grace? Down below grace there, we're going to put life.
Hey, Bobby, we have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wendell?
Hey,
Hey, Wendell.
hey guys, are you still on the question of who's judging?
We can be. We're not very far past it, but jump in.
Okay, so how about this? How about the concept of we are judging? And
Yeah,
so did anyone bring that up?
Well, Shirley kind of pointed us in that direction.
Oh.
So now we're going to build out the chart here to see if that proves out to be true. But that's definitely the track we want to get to here.
Well, how about this verse in Revelation 14:7?
Okay.
This is from the Remedy. He said in a clear, resounding voice, "Be in awe of God and glorify him by living his methods of love, because the hour has come for everyone to make a judgment about God and worship the designer, creator, builder who made the heavens, the earth, the sea, the springs of water, all of which operate upon his law of love."
Good. That puts it pretty well. Can somebody, just so we have the comparison, read that same verse from either New King James or something more that's not quite such a translation, just so we have the comparison.
What was
Yeah.
it? Revelation what?
14:7.
14:7.
First angel's message.
Saying with a loud voice, "Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come. And worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea, and springs of water."
Can you read it one more time, Wendell, from the Remedy?
Sure. So he said in a clear, resounding voice, "Be in awe of God and glorify him by living his methods of love, because the hour has come for everyone to make a judgment about God and worship the designer, creator, and builder who made the heavens, the earth, the sea, the springs of water, all of which operate upon his law of love." So it's like would be saying the car of Bobby. So it's like possessive. It belongs to Bobby, versus the car from Bobby, which would mean it's coming from you. So this is that preposition, right? It's sort of, we read it sort of like we're judging him, but I mean, sorry, that we're
He's
taking
judging
it
us.
like, yeah, it's coming from him, but it's really the judgment is going to him.
Okay, good. And of course, that's the interpretive part of the Remedy. He's turning it around so that the judgment is more focused on what we're deciding about God. So what we want to do is see if that's provable. Can we prove that out versus just take Tim's word for it? He's the one that did that translation. So let's add a few pieces. Don't let us leave that question, though, for very long, Wendell, okay? So
Okay.
what we're doing is we're going to build down the left side. There's kind of two options for you and I to end up at. It's either life, which comes through grace. This, again, is God's transformative power. In the Remedy Bible, of course, Tim will call that the remedy. We could write that in there if you want. Under grace, we'll just put another word, remedy. But now over to the right side, which is the opposite result, because there are those in both John 3 and John 12 that reject Jesus, right? And we see that in Judas's life and so many others. So if they reject Christ, really what I want to put there is they're choosing to go free from grace. In other words, God isn't just arbitrarily picking and choosing and rejecting some. According to John 3 and 12 and even 10, this is really about a choice somewhere. So where do we put the choice part here? Let's put choice in a little box right under the middle big box. Yeah, right here. We'll just make a little box and draw a line over here. It says choice. Where that works. Okay, so choice. And this is a fundamental sort of piece of the puzzle, because there are a lot of Christians that don't believe that God extends choice. And if you're of that mindset, we have to take a little detour here and back up and establish that that's true or not true. So, but if everybody on the call tonight believes that he has choice, it's okay if you don't. But if you believe he gives you choice, how important is that?
Jesus demonstrated the truth about God, and whether people reject it or believe it is their choice.
And we see that right in John chapter 3, don't we?
Yeah, John chapter 3, verse 19, I think has an implication of a choice being made. Of course, the way it's worded is the implication is that they made the choice against the light, which light would be the truth about God, what Jesus called himself and what he revealed. So John 3:19 says, "This is the condemnation, that the light has come into the world, and men loved." And so I want to say that the word loved is them making a choice. They loved darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil.
Okay. And so we see it, what you're saying is implied in there is a choice. Do we have any places in Scripture where it makes it clear that there's a choice?
Joshua 24,
Okay, Joshua 24.
15.
That's to choose you this day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whom you'll serve. And in that whole story, he puts before them truth and deception, or truth and good results, bad results. You know, what does sin do versus what does coming to God do, returning to God, repenting. And in there, he gets through with that whole description. And sure enough, he says, now you got to make a choice. So choice is in there. We can establish that more if we need to. But we need to understand that that's so important, that if you take choice out of the puzzle, out of the picture, you end up ruining love. Love cannot exist if it takes choice away. You'll see that where a young man tries to win a young girl's heart. If he were to say, you will love me or else, that's going to wreck the relationship really fast. So part of love, or when we first started last week on love, forgiveness, healing, part of love is to understand that choice is a big deal. Anybody want to add to that?
Well,
like
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I feel like choice takes away the God of punishment for me. It's not so much it makes me feel like I'm making the decisions, I guess.
Okay. So not coerced, not forced.
Yeah, it doesn't seem it kind of puts the responsibility on me, not just on whoever's judging me.
Okay. Are you more comfortable with the God that gives choice or less?
More.
More. Okay, somebody else was chiming in. Was that Wendell?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's one thought that I have is that in consideration of all of God's laws, every single one of them, that we can clearly identify, including, you know, the laws of physics, in nature and everything. Choice looms for me to be near the top. That unless that is in force and in place and fully established, that the game's off. You have no reason to go forward. The creator doesn't have a reason. I mean, he could have made robots, and then we don't really have a reason to follow him if we don't have a choice. What does it matter, you know?
Yeah, and you watch the disciples over and over again. Jesus tells them things, but then they're given freedom to not listen. Classic example, of course, would be Peter, right? He doesn't seem to listen too well to Jesus, but Jesus doesn't stop coming after him. Now, I want to work on choice from a little bit different perspective for a minute. And that is, this is not saying, nor is it biblical to say that your choices are between whether you do good or whether you do evil. In other words, you come to a fork in the road. This is how I was taught it on the chalkboard. You come to a fork in the road. You can do the right thing or the wrong thing. Now you have to make a choice. And based on your choice, you're either going to end up getting points for good or points for evil. That is not the kind of choice we're talking about here. In fact, that is a system that only leaves you death as a result. Here's what I mean. There's only one choice, or between two things that you're choosing. So there's only one choice to make. And that is, will you surrender to God's grace, which is down on the left, or do you want to go free from grace, which means to do it on your own, to try accomplish righteousness your own way, or to reject righteousness altogether? All of those are the same thing. They are to go free or reject grace on the heart. And here's why that's important. Jesus said, you cannot bring a clean thing out of an unclean. But at the top of our drawing is the word sinner. We started out an unclean thing. And no human can bring a clean thing out of that unclean. Now, we try. In fact, we get very excited about lists. Either lists of things that we have to do, or lists to not do, things to eat or not eat, things to certain direction to walk or not walk, people to hang out with or not hang out with. We are very excited about those because it builds for us a way to be in charge and kind of in control of accomplishing our own righteousness. All that's ever going to do is bring death. That's what Peter tried to do when Jesus told him he was going to deny him. And Peter said, no, I'm not. I'm a serious disciple. I will not deny you no matter what. So he chose to do the right thing. What he didn't know was that deep down inside of him was something else that would come out given the right opportunity that he didn't know was down in there. And it was called self-preservation. And it would kick into gear, and he would reject Christ momentarily simply because of that self-preservation. So don't confuse what I'm using, choice, about choosing to do the right thing or the wrong thing versus choosing to submit to God and letting God work on the heart to develop in your heart, create would be a better word, create in your heart righteousness. And then what comes out of you is righteousness. Do we get that correct, Rich?
Yes.
I'd like to add under Joshua 24, it's verse 15, I believe, which especially says, choose whom you will serve.
Right. He doesn't give them a list of do's and don'ts again and tell them, they already failed that, right? We did that at Sinai, and we proved we couldn't do it. We tried. 40 days later, we had a golden calf. So that program don't work. So this is choice in a different manner. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Kalal has a comment.
Go ahead, Kalal.
Yes, I had a comment. I want to add with Sir Mr. John, as he mentioned about John 3, verse 16, right? So I want to add from Ellen G. White, as she written, the signs of the times. There is the plan of salvation making manifest the justice and the love of God provides an eternal safeguard against a defection in unfallen worlds. And as well as among those who shall be redeemed by the blood of the Lamb, our only hope is perfect, trust in the blood of him who can save to the uttermost all that come unto God by him. The death of Christ on the cross of Calvary is our only hope. And in this world, and it will be our theme in the world to come. We do not comprehend the value of the atonement. If we did, we would talk more about it. The gift of God in his beloved Son was the expression of an incomprehensible love. It was the utmost that God could do to preserve the honor of his law and still save the transgressor. Why should man not study the theme of redemption? It is the greatest subject that can engage the human mind. If men would contemplate the love of Christ displayed in the cross, their faith would be strengthened to appropriate the merits of his shed blood, and they would be cleansed and saved from sin. This is from the Signs of the Times. And there is a little bit I want to add. A light from the cross. The crossman could have no connection with the Father. On it hangs our every hope. In view of it, the Christian may advance with the step of a conqueror, from it streams the light of the Savior's love. When the sinner reaches the cross and looks up to the one who died to save him, he may rejoice with fullness of joy, for his sins are pardoned. Dealing at the cross, he has reached the highest place to which man can attain. The light of the knowledge of the glory of God is revealed in the face of Jesus Christ, and the words of
Amen.
pardon are spoken. Live, O ye guilty sinners, live. Your repentance is accepted, for I have found the ransom. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Thank you, Cole.
Amen.
We should add into our list right over here, John 17:3, which kind of just summarizes what Kalal was reading to us there. 17:3 says, "This is life eternal, that you know him, the one and only true God," right? So we are very much connecting to the fact that this is the truth about God. It's got to be the truth about God. If you worship a false concept of God, there's no remedy at all, because you'll be beholding the wrong thing, the wrong character, the wrong version of God's heart, which we can see only in Jesus. I mean, we have other shadow examples in some people throughout history, but the only perfect example is Jesus, right? So that truth about God, and then it is true, God's going to let you make a decision between whether you want to surrender to God to be transformed into his likeness, matching his spirit and character, or you want to go free from grace, which is to reject God, and the end results of that would be eternal death or death. Okay, we got the whole picture now, all the pieces there. This is the fullness of the gospel, to get all these pieces. And I'm talking about the ones on the right, because it isn't true that everybody's going to be saved. But why? Why is not everybody saved? If it's because God lost his temper and wouldn't put up with them anymore, then that would be the wrong version of God. But in this version, and we're coming back still to work on establishing Wendell's point, is it true or not true, that the way God judges is so different than ours. The reason we have trouble understanding a lot of these verses is because we read about judgment and we picture in our mind how we would do the judging, versus reading these verses all together and watching how God judges. Here's how he judges, and it's right in John 3. First, he presents the truth about God to whom? To the sinner. It's the sinner that's the one that's in crisis, that's in trouble. So God presents the truth about God to the sinner, and when it's been presented, then he simply asks them, what would you choose? Choose you this day concept. If they reject him, the light, that's still in John, right? Then there's no remedy for them, no hope, no salvation for them. If they accept God's work on the heart and grace, he takes them and he bears all the responsibility for how to get them from point A, that's sinful, to point B, which is transformed into his likeness. And so in the whole picture, we've got every component, every piece of what is to be understood as the gospel. And in it, God is not some mighty heavy who has to start swinging. In fact, what I would say is that, to Wendell's point, first we're going to see that God presents the truth about himself to us. That's in the Truth About God box. And in doing so, he's inviting us to make a determination or even a judgment about whether he is good or whether he is not good, whether he is trustworthy or not trustworthy. And in so doing, first, he asks us to judge him. Now, there's biblical foundation for that. For instance, in the Old Testament, Isaiah, he called the whole universe to look and to judge between him and his vineyard, is what it was, to determine was there anything more he could do for that vineyard? Was there anything he left undone to try to rescue that vineyard? And in that story, he's painting this exact picture of he's willing to be judged by the entire universe. Is he true? Is he loving? Is he kind? Because Satan has said that he is not. Satan has said that God is not full of mercy. He's a God of justice, terrible justice. Therefore, he cannot be merciful. But watch this. If we start at the top with a sinner, now you ready, Wendell? We're going to move on from the point of us judging God, there in Tim's version of the Remedy Bible, on to the next piece, which is when the sinner comes to see the truth about God, all that God has to offer, and then chooses to accept God's life, his grace, that leads down to eternal life. And to reject it would lead down to eternal death. So what would be merciful on the picture? For God to give life or death? Where would we standardly put mercy? On the way down from truth about God to grace, or on the way down towards free from grace?
Both.
Have you heard this before?
You get to answer, Wendell.
Mercy.
Well, yeah,
Life or death?
I'm gonna go with the peanut gallery and say both.
Okay, good. Well, let's start with that. It is merciful. Does everybody believe that it's merciful to give life? Because if it's not, we can't put the M there. Anybody say it's not merciful?
It is not merciful to give life to a sinner.
Not merciful?
Not merciful
You're
to a
lost.
sinner who rejects God. He'd be miserable forever.
So are you a sinner?
I am.
I put you on the spot now. Me too. Do you think that it's merciful for God to grant the opportunity for us to be transformed?
Not merciful for God to save us.
Absolutely.
To you and me, right? Well, I mean to everybody, but if you and I are just evaluating it, wouldn't we agree that thank you, Lord, for your mercy? Remember David in Psalms 51, have mercy on me, a sinner. That's the setup right there. So David called for mercy, and it wasn't to give him death. It would have been to give him life, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to put that M. We've already got it there down the left side. But justice goes to which side?
The same as with mercy, it goes with both.
Wouldn't we normally, if we're participating in the judging and we look at a terrible, terrible sinner, we would say, yeah, Lord, in justice, you must destroy them or give them to death. So we'll put a J down the right side. And that's normally, we get that part. Y'all are having fun getting to the next part, which is the part that's not so easy to get. And that is that if you have a sinner, 100% guilty, but sees the truth about God and chooses to accept it, is it just to give life to a sinner?
Bobby Kalal has a comment.
Go ahead, Glo.
Okay. Oh, maybe he didn't hear us.
Okay, when you see him come back, let him pitch in.
Oh, there he is.
When you're when this date and the scene is just coming up, it's just making me frustrated, and even it's just making me, oh, I can die. So at this point, I want to just add something here from as it's inspiring me. Love is stronger than date, and it we can find from the Signs of the Times. I'm going to read, love is stronger than date.
we got the love is stronger than death.
I'm sorry, Kalal, your connection is probably a little too tough for us to be able to hear your quote, but we appreciate you wanted to share.
Well, if he connects again and you can hear him, let's at least get the reference from him so we could look it up later.
Yeah. Okay.
We could probably search for life stronger than death. Okay, but to make our point, so we don't lose the point, if we ask the question, in the court of heaven, are they okay that justice allows for a sinner to be transformed and given eternal life? Anybody got any thoughts on that one?
Well,
somebody said down both, so.
Somebody mentioned the word rehab, and I think it would be unjust to not offer the opportunity to be changed if a person wanted to be changed and it was possible. So I don't know if that's helpful, but
sure. And that's really the question about the version of God that's out there is, what if someone wants to be saved? Often it's asked this way: what if they change their mind last minute? Is it too late? And often there's lots of discussions then that happen. From our perspective, we'd be discussing closer probation and how long they took to make their decision. Probably it's too late and those kind of things. But really to evaluate, is this just? See, this is really about evaluating. Satan said that God was just and could not be merciful. And then when God said, well, no, I can be merciful, I can give life to sinners, Satan said, how's that fair? How is it just to give life to sinners? And it wasn't clear. It wasn't understood. Satan threw the accusation that if God, who cut him off from heaven, cut Satan off from heaven, wouldn't allow him salvation, then how could he extend salvation to Adam and Eve, who also sinned? And of course, even the way I'm saying that is a bit of a trap, because that's to assume that Satan just made one mistake and then wanted to change his mind, but wasn't allowed. See, that's not really the story. The story is that God worked and worked and worked to try to bring Lucifer to change his mind, to turn around. And I can know, I don't even have to use books outside of the Bible to know this. I can know by watching how Jesus treated Judas and Peter that in no way did he force Judas to be a rejecter of Christ. Neither did he force Peter to be an acceptor of Christ. But what we have is a system that justice and mercy both agree that if the sinner chooses the light, chooses to submit to God, then justice and mercy both agree they should be given grace or transformation, rehab, and eternal life. And then the last question, does justice and mercy both agree that after someone sees the truth and then rejects, not once, not twice, but over and over and over again, to the point they cannot be talked into changing their mind, would it be merciful to give that one eternal death?
Yes.
That was a little hard to wrap your head around, but someone pipe in and tell us if that's true or not and why you believe it.
Well, I'm reminded of the story in Desire of Ages about Jesus healing the demon-possessed man. So when I think of a demon-possessed man, in fact, I think she makes the commentary that he was demon-possessed because of his life of choosing sin, right? Of being a sinner and going down the wrong path. And here he is, he's demon-possessed, and he can't even speak for himself. The demon has full control. But Jesus is standing there, and I believe that the reference is that he reads the heart of the man who, without even being able to verbally say it, is just asking in his heart to be healed. And Jesus heals him completely. kicks the demons out, and he's made whole. To me, that is an amazing story of the redemption that Christ is offering us. He's asking us to come to him just as we are, and he will do the work in us. The question is, do we want it? And for us to want it correctly, we have to know what it is that we want. And unfortunately, too many people today have the wrong picture of God. They're not making an informed decision. They're choosing the wrong version of God. Anyway.
Good.
So what about those
Good support.
demon-possessed people, John?
What's that?
So I'm just thinking from the perspective of somebody that is demon-possessed, and they might have even chosen that at some point, and they may not have ever really had a good picture of God. How much of a picture of God do you have to come back and choose that? I'm just pushing it further. Maybe I'm...
Oh, so you're saying how much of a picture?
Enough to make the
Yeah,
choice.
like what happened?
Enough to make the choice, yes. The difference between light and darkness is pretty obvious, right? You don't have to have a scientific degree on why things are, why darkness is dark and how light works. And you don't have to know all that, but you can just look and see in contrast the difference between light and dark. If Jesus hadn't come, we would never have had the example. We would never have really truly been able to see light. So anyway.
I was going to say, because that demon-possessed man that you were talking about, John, it would be the case that he had not seen the light until Jesus was in front of him healing him. So that was actually the activity about giving him the light so he could make another bigger long-term choice, which the man still had the right to do after the demons were kicked out of him. But Jesus was presenting to him the light, freeing him from the devil so that then he could choose long-term, is he going to submit and surrender to God? Probably because of what Jesus did for him. But even the lepers, right? We know they didn't all come back. So it's not just that he got demons cast out of him and boom, he's automatically in heaven. That was the way for God to reveal to that man the light so he could see it.
I wonder, John, that's a really good thought you had there. And I'm wondering whether that man and many people who came to Jesus, who the world would call great sinners, actually had a clearer picture of who God was than the people that studied him every week.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, now if we want to get into an either or a choice scenario, Jesus told the parable of the two worshipers. The one who prayed to God and said how thankful he was that he wasn't a sinner, that he had never committed adultery, and that he wasn't like that terrible publican over there.
Yeah.
But Jesus defined him as praying to himself, meaning that somehow, somewhere, he had a picture of God that wasn't right. And so he wasn't praying to God, he was praying to something else, to himself. And the man who was the publican or the sinner is standing back in the corner, beating his chest and saying, Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner. He is standing, Jesus said, he goes away justified, or you could say set right. That means he understands, one, who God is, and two, his position in the relationship between him and God.
So God is the Savior, which the Pharisee or the self-righteous man that was praying had no need of. So yeah, that would definitely, He understands his place as, he saw a picture of this graph. He saw himself as a sinner up at the top. When even if they've never seen him before, they see him instantly by the words he's speaking, by the look on his face, by the way he's being treated. He is seeing the truth about God more clearly than one who sees not themselves as a sinner, does not need anything, or they only need a little bit of aid from God. Somebody who realizes themselves as 100% guilty and in zero capacity to save themselves has to have a savior.
Right.
They need it. They want
it. And in that story, Charlie, it doesn't really matter how good or bad their picture of God was before. It's what do they do with the correct picture when God gives it to them. That's what matters.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody on the planet, remember it says that we saw, prophets wrote about it. You know, we saw before in various and sundry ways, but those were all pieces and shadows. Nobody had seen the real truth yet. And that was when they looked at Jesus. Now we get to see the real thing.
I remember the first time I heard Love, Forgiveness, Healing, Wrath, and Bobby in at that time made the comment. He said some people don't want God to be that loving, because if he's that loving, then maybe they have to be that loving. And it just, I don't know why that stuck with me, but it's like, yeah, that's true. A lot of people prefer an angry, vengeful, wrathful God because it speaks to what I'm called to be as well.
Bobby?
Yes.
Luke 23:30
Okay.
and Revelation 6:16 describes people who can't stand the presence of God.
Can't stand the truth, the light. They don't like it.
They ask for the rocks and the mountains to fall on them and hide them from the presence of God.
Good. Thank you for those references. So let's put our conclusion on our drawing, and then you guys can take this conversation wherever you want. But what I want to make sure we're getting kind of at the heart of the matter is that we've been confused about what justice is and what mercy is. We thought that justice was the way we work with it. We have this, I either really like this person or I don't like this person. I'm mad at them, so therefore I've got to stop them, or I've got to get them put in jail or something. And so we kind of have this, oh yeah, justice is when they did something wrong and they get paid back. But that isn't God's definition for justice. God's definition, and even Webster does have one that alludes in this direction, and it has to do with fairness. Fairness. So that changes a little bit about how we would approach justice. Justice is about working out what is fair and what is right. And did somebody do a wrong thing on purpose? Did they do a wrong thing because they had no ability to do it right? And what if they could be changed? So on God's system over here on the side, we're going to put a J equals. And you'll notice because we have justice and mercy going down both sides, that means the sinner at the top, after he sees the truth about God, he receives whichever one. Justice says he gets whichever one he chooses, either surrender to God or reject God. But so does mercy. So mercy is also going down both sides, which means in God's government, mercy also says we have to bring the light, have to deliver the light, and then based on what they choose, then mercy can agree with justice. So we're going to put mercy equals, they both equal choice, which really means they both equal love. And we'll put the word love there. And only, it's kind of interesting, if you study the left side of the picture and keep trying to come up with how to do it with love, you're going to get stuck over and over and over again, because on the left side, justice and mercy don't agree. they oppose. One is going left, one is going right. One says kill him, one says give him life. They're always opposed, and we try to balance the two out. But you'll notice in this country, whenever we have big criminal cases, no matter how much proof there is they did or didn't do it, there always seems to be two sides. One group that believes they should get justice, and the other side that believes they should get mercy or that they didn't do it. How do you get the whole country to come to the exact same conclusion? That would be what happens when God brings this truth about himself out enough, and through transforming humans proves this whole theory out in reality. Then the universe can look, and here's Wendell's point again. The universe will be judging. Did God say truthfully, or did Lucifer? Did God say what was right about himself, or did Lucifer tell the truth about God? Is God doing it fair, loving, kind, as he said he would? Or is he kind, as I learned in school? He's merciful up to a certain point, and then mercy is going to run out, and justice will take over. And that leaves Shady and I sort of trembling with, hopefully today's a mercy day and not the end of the mercy day or week or month or whatever. Or we're in big trouble, right, Shady?
Yes.
But in God's system of government, which is on the right, we see that the two, that is justice and mercy, they perfectly cooperate together. They both come into agreement. Now, what's fun, if you're a student of the sanctuary, there is a symbol in the Old Testament. It's called the Ark of the Covenant. We'll see if Hannah can find some place to draw it in there. An Ark of the Covenant, and the lid on top represents mercy. And the box below that houses all the parts that are in it represents justice. And I used to think that, God took justice and mercy, and at the cross, he fixed them. Like, they were opposed, and then at the cross, he fixed them so they could both agree. But that leaves them both different in the first place. In reality, with God, they were always the same, that is justice and mercy. And he gave us the Ark of the Covenant box called the mercy seat and the Ark of the Covenant to symbolize what, through the work of Christ, he would help us to understand that justice and mercy were never different, never opposed. That was something that Satan sort of made up and propagated into our thinking, but it isn't true. It isn't correct. So justice and mercy both equal love. Ark of the Covenant is the symbol of the union between justice and mercy. I think that the work of the cross, symbolized in the sanctuary, which was about sprinkling the blood on the Ark of the Covenant, that's how they did on the Day of Atonement. That was the symbolic terms God was saying, through my son, I am going to show you how justice and mercy are perfectly united. They're not different. Then you get to Revelation 11, and it refers to the Ark of the Covenant seen in heaven and in the holy place, and describes it there. I believe that is the prophetic language for maybe for Sabbath, we can work on this. The prophetic language that God was going to bring and help us to understand that justice and mercy were not like what we thought. They were actually the same. So,
hey, Bobby,
one last piece, John, and I'll let you go.
Sure.
Let's put the cross in here. You got to fit it in right there, maybe under the 30. Just put a cross there to symbolize that this is the work of the cross. The work of the cross was to deliver the truth about God and allow people to then make their choice. And that's what makes all the rest of this possible. Okay, John, go ahead.
yeah, actually, Wendell has a comment.
So in this Zoom meeting, am I the only one that doesn't have a SDA background?
Anybody else
Probably.
not SDA, born and raised?
I know
There's
David.
Shady.
I was not raised to SDA.
I was.
Okay.
I was.
Carla.
I was
There's a
not.
few.
Okay, good.
Sorry.
Well, I mean,
Sorry, I was getting
Yeah.
ice cream. What did you say?
can you share some ice cream?
You weren't raised as a
They wanted some ice cream.
Well, I
John,
mean,
go ahead, Wendell.
yeah, just my point is that I appreciate all of you collectively, and I know that the guidance and the reformation of what you guys have subscribed to, wherever you are in it, provides hope for me. And but for me, coming from a Pentecostal, Assemblies of God, Baptist, Catholic, Charismatic, and sort of what we call in Hawaii kind of like a mixed plate or a stew, a mixture of different ingredients. Most of my friends that I've had to kind of step away from have a view of God because they need that view of God, and I think John brought that up, and I think that's it's an important feature in their conversion process, where they need a champion who will snuff out and punish and rectify injustice, because he is just, he's fair, but he's all powerful, and he gets his way, and he wins his glory by the methods of force and the methods of saying, I told you so, and you're going to get it, and I'm going to deliver the punishment, which is not true if you look at 1 John 4:18. So that's one comment. Another comment is that, from a non-SDA person, is that I think working towards to change the narrative, where we're not looking necessarily for the right or the correct view of God, as opposed to really what is more a true view of God. And I know that they're probably related, but if your doctor gave you the truest view of your diagnosis, and it was so clear to you, that is something that you could probably trust, whatever it is. So let's just make it something kind of benign, like allergy, some kind of sinusitis or something like that. Okay. And if you got a very clear picture of that diagnosis, you could make all kinds of decisions about what you wanted to do. And one of them is to not do anything and to continue in your pathology and suffer, But the idea, I think, is coming to a point where instead of moving people towards a correct view or the right view of God, coming to more of a truthful, more of almost an empirical view of God, where Jesus asked Peter, "Who do you say that I am?" That's one instance. And then the other one is when he said to Philip, "Okay, go ahead, check me out exactly how you want, and you decide what you want to do." So those are two things that I've been thinking through in this discussion.
Good, thank you, Wendell. In fact, your comments made me, if nobody minds, interested in spending a few minutes on something I don't usually comment or detail out. But let's look for a minute at other versions, false versions are going to be, but other versions of the gospel, the way they play out on the left side of our picture there, our drawing. For instance, under the word justice, let's put the word wrath. Wrath, W-R-A-T-H. That in most, and I'm going to say most Christian, all Christian religions, the ones that espouse to the Bible as their theology, most all of them do this. There is wrath down the left side with the justice. So God is in the story the judge, but he's a kind judge in many versions. But at some point, he's going to put his foot down, and then that's going to be the end. And when he does, and this is where there's many variations. My SDA growing up version was that he wouldn't burn everybody forever and ever, just as long as they deserve. So for some, that might be a minute or two. Others, it might be hours. I don't know. That sort of wasn't really spelled out. Others want to go all the way to the burn forever and ever. But either way, on the diagram, we end up with wrath and justice down the one side. And it's all based on how well you did before you came to the judge. Then on the other side, instead of wrath, we would put the word grace in these other versions of theology. And so you have many different variations of Christianity that we say things like this. Well, they sort of lean to the grace side or to the mercy side. And then this other group over here, you know, they really get revved up and shout and spit while they're hollering about fire and brimstone. So they're more on the wrath side, right? And so we have all these different variations of Christianity. But one thing you'll notice, no matter how many details of those variations we spell out, they're all on the left side. All of them fit on the left side. They use the left side to present or build their concept of how righteousness and salvation work. And in that, there's many packages, many variations. Like I say, I'm happy to comment on any of them if anyone has any specifics. The one on the right is completely unusual. For instance, let's put wrath on the right so I can show you where it belongs. And it goes down here by the red line. We put the word wrath there. Wrath, as we worked on last week, wrath is not when God loses his temper or runs out of patience and then destroys people. Wrath is when he has tried to reveal the truth about himself to them, allowed them to react, to respond, choose to accept, or even sometimes reject a little and then accept some more, but until they're fully persuaded either to accept him fully or to reject him fully. This is the work of God that you believe. That verse is talking about the fact that it's God's work to present what needs to be presented so you can believe. He wasn't telling you your job was to make yourself believe. He was going to give the evidence. So after the evidence is presented and then rejection is full and complete, then wrath comes into play. And as we learned last week, Romans chapter 1 tells us this is God giving up and letting go and turning you over to the result of your choice. So the cross, which is up there with the truth about God, I'm not saying it's two different places on the drawing so much as Jesus on the cross, he went through that wrath, not because it's about God being angry, but because he was showing us what it would be like to be fully separated. And that will be what you will receive only if you choose to reject all of God's offers to work on the heart, to change you, to make you patient, loving, and kind, to write his law on your heart. This one on the right, you can take any other denominational explanation about the judgment, and it will not put all these components together, and it will have to ignore some of these verses in order to do it. And we build that on the left so often. So wrath down the right, that's where that takes place. Grace is already there. We can put a little highlight under grace maybe so we see where that belongs, as it's already in the drawing.
Hey, Bobby.
Yeah.
So where would you say that the people who their religion is more on the left side, where would you say they put the cross on their?
The cross is usually placed, and Hannah gets her pen in there. The cross is usually placed down the side of mercy. So you have to put a cross over top the word mercy, because that's the only thing that allows for mercy to be given to the convict.
Don't you often hear them say that God had to get his wrath or justice out on Jesus to be able to forgive?
So let's put the letter W right above the cross. This is how it's explained in most versions of Christianity, that, as you said, John, wrath had to be taken out on something. Well, if he took it out on you, the sinner, the convict, you'd be dead. So instead, he poured it out on Jesus, which gives you sort of a protective path to walk under that and make it down to the free side, or where you're set free, because Jesus took the wrath and let you pass through underneath, not receiving the wrath. One theologian says it this way, a very prominent, popular theologian. He says that God did not defer his wrath, but rather he poured it out on Christ so that he could give mercy to the sinner.
Wow.
Bobby,
Yeah.
it's interesting in Genesis 3. I have heard people say that God cursed us because of sin.
Okay.
But when you read through Genesis 3, you find out that he did not curse us.
He said, cursed is the ground. Is that what you're referring to?
He curses the ground and he curses the serpent.
That's right.
He never cursed people. And in talking about wrath, his wrath is against the sin that destroys his people.
Good. So in the right, drawn on the right side, in the truth about God, your comment about wrath would be that during this presentation of the truth about God, his enemy is sin itself. His enemy is what destroyed Satan. His enemy is what destroyed Lucifer or Esau. We talked about Esau a little bit last week. So his wrath would be directed there because he's not really going to unleash it until down here on the right far corner. And I don't mean to make this complicated, but I know many of you have seen this many times, so that'd be fun to add a few of these other things. I wanted to also add, to finish off Wendell's thought about judgment, that first step is for God to present the truth about him, for us to judge whether he is correct or not, whether he is true or not. And then to finish the judgment activity, it has to be determined, have we, the sinner, surrendered to God, submitted to God for him to work out our salvation, or have we rejected him? So the judgment is not really finished just when the wicked bow the knee and confess with their tongues that the Lord is true and right and just in all his ways. That is where they are participating in what the heavens have already done, which is to agree and determine that God is true and right. So let's call that step one of the judgment. Step two is for Jesus then to turn to the people and say, now, Father, where do you see our character written in them? Any of them? And that's the part about now choice will be revealed, not to make a choice that day, but what choice has been made, either to submit to God or reject God. Because the rejectors of his grace will run and call for the rocks to hide them from the face of him who comes. The righteous will know that they have nothing in them of themselves that counts for righteousness. They didn't accomplish even one tiny stitch of it. That's why it says they put their crowns at Jesus' feet, or they acknowledge that except for the work of God in their lives, on their heart, they were not worthy of any of this gift of grace. It is truly a free gift. Okay, so with that, that's kind of, just wanted to say that in Revelation, the reason why it says, fear God and give him glory, for the hour of his judgment has come. Wendell, you're right, it is about his way of judging, which starts off with letting himself be judged, and then it turns to see and who has received this grace on the heart and who has rejected it. And so it does involve everybody in the whole story. But he's the center of the focus. Okay, anything else anybody wants to add before we?
I was just noticing that there's not a title on the two charts about which the left side was and what the right side was.
We can add that for you. Since we're talking about governments, since we're talking about governments, above the left side, we'll put Satan's government. This is how he operates governments, because this is the only way he can conceive of it. The only way he can conceive of it working. In fact, he tries to get everybody to believe that this is how it works. Then on the other side, we'll just go off to the right of your Ark of the Covenant there and put God's government. This is the way God's system of judgment and government work. It's fair, it's true, it's right, and I haven't been able to find a piece in it yet that turns out to be unfair or unjust or unmerciful or unkind.
Could I bring up something that I don't think I've heard yet in this discussion? So has anyone considered, the false models of who God is versus true models, true model or models? Has anyone made a correlation between the falsities of how those models operate and the economic model that a bifurcated God, on one hand loving, on the other hand destructive, that the economic model requires this type of confusion? So you come to the altar and you come into membership and you pay your tithe and you stay on the right side of God and you get blessed by his right hand, but you don't get slapped by his left hand and all of that.
Good question, Wendell. In fact, that's a good lead-in for me to say next Thursday, we will do the 2 altars. And actually on the 2 altars, we're just going to step from here a little further with the same principles, because in those 2 altars, we are going to detail, and of course, it depends on what questions you guys bring up as to which parts we work on, to see the different models of false, we call it false worship, false philosophies, false ideas about God. But last week we kind of detailed out a little bit of that in how we view each of those words: love, forgiveness, healing, and wrath. Then this week we're detailing out a little more about the difference, but it's always fun to get some specifics. So if you guys think of some specifics to compare, even tonight, if you want, between the left side and the right side on, for me, example, Wendell, is I think of the left side here a little bit. If we were to detail that out from Buddhism, Buddhism is a system whereby we work to develop the good within. And so we're trying to obtain mercy or achievement of enlightenment through going down the choosing to do what is right and what is good versus what is evil. And so at some point in time, there has to be some justice met out. Sometimes it's by the very ones who are working to be so calm. We kind of like the idea of the Buddhist who is a monk or a big deep thinker, but also has a superior martial arts skills, so he can really let them have it when they're out of line. But then you take a Christian, and we go on this same drawing on the left, and the Christian will look at the Buddhist and automatically condemn them down the side of wrath and justice, right? And so on and so on. We can keep going through so many different variations, but they're all going to be based on this false model of the truth about God, or in this case, the falsities about God, and how the system really works, the system of court, judgment, and determining who is right. It's going to be amazing in heaven. I've read comments Sister White says about we might be surprised at some that actually are there. I assume that means because we were thinking they were much worse people than they couldn't surely make it there. And yet when we find out the backstory that we couldn't read because we were finite and humans, of what was really going on in their hearts and what God was doing behind the scenes with them. So Paul, of course, in Romans chapter 1 spells that out. And then Jesus says, judge nothing before the time. Paul adds that from Jesus's teachings. Judge nothing before the time, because who are you to know? Which then again brings me back to, so in the gospel, our job is not to determine who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, and tell them. Our job is to help everybody as much as they want to know and as quickly as they want to know it, come to know the truth about God as it is in Jesus, so that they can have the opportunity to either surrender to him or to reject him, because it'll be one or the other. All right, anything else?
Thank you for sharing.
We don't have to do it tonight because we're out of time, but one of these times, if any of you want a bunch of spirit prophecy references that also establish these things, we can go through a nice long list of those, or I could have maybe John could finish that list out, and we can get it emailed out to anybody who wants it.
Yes,
All right.
I sent them in everyone's email.
Well, we have that list already made, John.
I'm sorry, were you talking about the drawings or something else?
No, I was talking about, well, drawing's good, send those, but I was meaning the references where to read about all this from Sister White's writings if they're interested. I've got a long list of references, good to go through and see if it's saying the same thing.
Yeah, if you send it to me, I can
Yeah,
share
we'll work at making that up and making it available. Okay, well, let's have a prayer, and that way, if anybody needs to go, we're not going way over time, because we promised an hour and a half. And then if anybody's got further comment or question, willing to work on a few more minutes. Heavenly Father, we do thank you for your love and your grace. We thank you most of all that you did the difficult, challenging, big sacrifice effort to come down here in the person and body of your Son, so that we might look upon him and gain a correct understanding of what you're like. Help us to grab onto the verses that say, if we've seen Jesus, we've seen the Father, and to believe with everything we've got that you love us the same as Jesus loves us, and you're working at trying to rescue us and save us from our own sin as much as Jesus does and did, so that we can see that you are not someone to be afraid of, but we can run to you to be transformed. We thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Good stuff.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
I'm glad I could. It's now 11:15. I need
Ooh, your time. Okay. That's why I'm quitting, for those that got to get going.
Yep. Blessings to you all.
Okay, we'll see you again.
Yes.
Next week, we'll do the 2 altars.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye to DJ if he hasn't left yet. Join us again if you like.
Thank you, Bobby. I got to go put my kids to bed.
Okay. Good night. See you later.
Good night.
Thank you, Bobby.
How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing well, brother. How are you?
Okay, good. I'm doing good.
Good.
And thank you, Bobby. I'm going to go back into the yard and do
Wendell.
some more
Aloha.
yard work. Take care.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, we'll see you, Rich. All right, Shady, any last questions for us?
Well, I have 2, but they don't have anything to do with my study.
So you're gonna work on those later, or what?
I mean, we can, unless, I mean, it depends on if you have time
I
tonight.
got a few minutes now.
So the first one is, I was discussing it with Barb, but she had expressed to me that she was worried about like pushing her convictions on me.
Mm-hmm.
My question was, why, and I don't understand, I mean, I haven't read the commandments, and so that might be part of the missing piece, but why is it Saturday specifically as
Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah, and then because we were discussing the Sunday law, because I think that's what you guys must have been discussing maybe a couple Saturdays ago while I was at work and I didn't get to hear the whole study.
Sure.
And so she kind of gave me a little bit of just a summary of like the Adventists think that eventually there's going to be a Sunday law, and I had asked her, I mean, why is it specifically? Why do Adventists have to? Why do we
make a contest between Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, when it could be every day. And then that led me into wondering, is it similar to, like, is that commandment similar to, you and I had discussed sacrifices, how they were a symbol to represent Jesus at first, and then they turned into an obligation. And so I'd asked her, has this Sabbath turned into an obligation, and it lost its original meaning?
Yeah, good questions. Okay, so let's first refer to Genesis in the creation story. Do you remember what happened there with the 6th day and the 7th day in creation?
And God rested. I think that's what it
Yeah, on the
says.
7th day, right? So he goes through this whole creation week where he creates everything a little bit at a time, each day adding more. And then on Friday, he finishes off the creation with creating man and woman and puts them in the garden together. So he created them male and female, right? And then he gives them this gift. Kind of like, you know, we have birthdays, they come around once a year, you know, and we celebrate that you were born and you're still alive. Well, so God gives this gift of specifically the 7th day. Now this was, excuse me, this was before sin. This was not on a list of rules. This was not about commandments. This was about God, and we watch it happen. Sister White will explain how every Friday in the cool of the evening, which is Sabbath begins at sunset, in the cool of the evening, God would come to the garden and spend all the evening with Adam and Eve, and then all the next day it's Sabbath. So every week as it came around for them, I don't know what they're doing, you know, working in the garden, whatever that looked like back then, but they're doing their stuff. And then on Friday specifically, they would spend the Sabbath time, the Sabbath hours with God. So before there was any sin, before there was any 10 commandments, before there was any of that, the way we spell it out, it was really something to identify. Remember, Adam and Eve didn't get to see creation. Right? Everything was created when they come along. So God made Adam, and then he said, well, here's some animals over here. Why don't you name them? And here's some plants over here. Why don't you name them? But they saw them all after they existed. So God told them the creation story and then gave them this reminder. I am the God who created you, who created the heavens and the earth. And every week on the 7th day, I rested on the original 7th day, and I will rest with you as a reminder of I built all this for you. I mean, there's no bad news in that. There's no, it doesn't even feel like rules, right? Well,
yeah.
So then Satan, one, he hates that this world was created. He hates the method and the timing and the schedule of how it was created. He hated that Adam and Eve were given the gift of this earth, not him. He thought he should be the ruler of this world. So it kind of identifies for Adam's, let's call it princehood, right? So if God's the creator and then he created this planet and he gives it to Adam and Eve and he says, here, this is yours. You're in charge of it. You're going to take care of it. You're going to be my representative on this planet. Well, that flies in the face of Lucifer claiming that it belongs to him, right? But for Adam and Eve, it's kind of like this, I'm going to call it a badge of distinction, right? That connects their thoughts, their memories, their minds to the creator God, the one who made heaven and earth, who made them and gave this life to them as a gift. He just breathed into the dirt and made Adam. So Adam didn't have to work for it. He didn't have to earn it. There's no salvation by works in this program. It was purely a gift. Now, Adam could choose to forget about that gift and say, well, I decided I'm too busy. I don't got time to stop on Saturday. Maybe if I get around to it, I'll do it on Tuesday. I mean, he could have picked any of those things, and God wasn't going to zap him for that. That's why in the 10 Commandments, it says, remember the Sabbath day. Remember, that's the intro to it. Remember the Sabbath day. Why? What's important about the Sabbath day? Well, it points us back to the Creator, how he made the earth, the whole history of all that, the history of the fall for us, right? We get to that part. Adam and Eve did fall, and it wasn't over which day to go to church on, by the way. It was over which tree to eat from, which fruit to eat from. And so they fell, and now God takes them out of the garden, and he gives them another symbol. This is the symbol of the lamb being slain, pointing them to two things. One, this is what sin's going to do to you, he told them. And second, this is also what my son is going to come and do for you, so you can be rescued and returned to Sabbath. And suddenly Sabbath expands now in our understanding from just a day to a concept of resting in Christ. Oh, who is, by the way, the creator God. Like if you and I are born leopards without spots, how are we going to get spots? Well, we'd have to have a creator who could make spots, right? Or you could reverse that if you want to take spots away. But either way, we need the creator God to do it. So when you and I are talking about, you know, Jesus and the work on the heart and saved, we're talking about the power of the creator to transform us. For us to trust in that is Sabbath. That's the Sabbath as a huge, massive reality, not just a day. So what's the value of the day? Well, kind of like, you know, if a young gal gets married, the man usually offers her a ring to put on her finger to symbolize something. But what does it symbolize? When she puts it on.
Their commitment or love, etc., etc.
Okay, good. And the most pure version of that should be his commitment, right? This isn't about yours. When you put it on, he's the one that gave you the gift. I know the woman gives him one too, but let's just talk about the man for the moment. So he's the one giving the gift, and he gives it to her to put on so she can remember that there's someone who is going to, for better or for worse, death do us part, all that whole stuff, is going to take care of her. He's going to love her unconditionally, no matter what. That's what it should be. I know most people don't know that when they go get married, but if we put it in the full context, that's what it should be. All right. The ring is a symbol. I don't know. Do you wear a wedding ring?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have one on. Can you put up the camera so I can see it? Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to ask you, if I offered you one I got out of the gumball machine, you know, at Safeway, in trade for that one, could I have yours and I'll give you this other one?
I suppose.
Not really.
I think the correct answer is yes, because it's just a symbol.
Okay, but would you really give it up for a plastic one out of a gumball machine?
No.
No, why not?
Because it's not my original one.
Good. And it's not the one he gave you. It would be one I would be coming up with from a gumball machine, right? And the value, there's no way that value can equal that. You understand that because you understand the relationship that you have with your husband. It's connected to that. So the marriage isn't the ring. The marriage is the relationship. The ring is only to remember, right? Which is why people, when they want to go down there to those taverns or whatever they're not supposed to go, what do? They take it off and they put it in their pocket.
Yeah.
Right? They're wanting to not remember or have anybody else know. So there's this connection that happens to, wow, they know that I'm connected to somebody when I have it, right? Okay, but translate that over to Sabbath. Sabbath is not supposed to be some rules that we made up that prove that you're a good wife or a good Christian. It is supposed to be connected to everything that it means. And do I understand that it is a gift to me? Yeah. If God says to me or you, here's my gift, and if you don't accept it, I'll kill you. Well, how badly do we want the gift? Well, we don't. I mean, we do if we want to survive, maybe, but we don't in the context of a good relationship with him. So he never said, keep this right day or you're going to be lost. What he said was, come to know me, learn to trust and rest in me, and then learn to Sabbath in me. That's rest in me, right? And I will give you rest. I will write my laws on your heart. Oh, which laws? Oh, all of them, which also includes don't kill, don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat. Oh, and there's one more, the one that nobody likes to talk about. That's the fourth one. Now, right there, though, if we flip that over and turn it into a Righteous by Works program, we'll wreck the whole thing. So it's important that when I grab onto that fourth one, it is my choice. It is his gift to me by my choice. What is my choice? My choice is that he promised me I can stop from all my labor on earth, like literal go to work labor, and I can rest in him. Why? because even if I lost my job doing that, he's going to take care of me, not my money, not my job. I can rest in him. It's about not trading in the real ring for the false one. At the same time, I understand fully every day of the week is a good day to worship God, good day to read, good day to pray, good day to share with people, have Bible studies, have potluck, whatever. Every day is a good day for that. But only one day is my remember day that I stop and I go, yep, I'm not very good at it, but I want to be a servant of the Most High God, the Creator God, the one who created heavens and earth. And it connects me again in my thoughts and understanding to all that. So why will it ever become a crisis between, and it's going to be interesting, I'm going to tell you, there's going to be some Adventists that won't understand this correctly. And their version of this fight is going to be wrong. What I mean by that is when the government, and here's the context, let me just tell you how this is even possible. You just look right now at all the things people are willing to comply with that we weren't 2 months ago because it's for our good. Like right to assembly, we said, I guess we'll just stay home. Other rights that we were just saying, oh yeah, I guess I don't have the right to go to the grocery store whenever I want. I have to wait in line. Anyway, point is we give those up because it makes sense. Now, do we want to give them up long term? No, hopefully not. Might we be asked to? Probably. Some want to just shout and scream at how evil the government is already. Well, there's not proof of that. They're asking us to stay home and not assemble for our safety. Now, 6 months from now, if it's proven that it's not for our safety, it's for something else, now there might be some legitimate rebellion, right? So this is how these things always change. So there's going to be some Adventists. Oh, sorry, I was going to tell you the reason why I think that it makes sense that would be a Sunday law is take the majority of Christianity, all of which sort of holds Sunday as a special day. Not all of them call it Sabbath. I've met lots of different denominational people that don't call Sunday Sabbath and actually know there's only one Sabbath on the seventh day. I've met lots of those, but they hold it special. So imagine the crisis is like COVID, only multiply it by hundreds of them, add on some hurricanes and disasters and all of that. And the religious leaders will be compelled by the situation of crisis that the devil creates, not God, to say, look, here's the problem. Now we're going to go to our left side of the justice and mercy chart. They will still be teaching the left side. And they'll be saying, unless we find a way to appease the wrathful God, whose anger is against us because of our sin, and one of the things we need to do is they're going to define a united day of worship. Now, will I be shocked if they pick Tuesday? Nah. I would be surprised, but it wouldn't wreck my understanding. Tuesday works, Wednesday works, Thursday. The one they will not pick is the seventh day. And the reason I know that is by watching the hatred that too many have against that. Against the fourth commandment itself. Some denominations even remove it from the Bible, like it's not supposed to be there. Why? Because Satan hates that day. He hates that meaning. He hates everything you and I was talking to you about entering into his rest. Satan hates it, therefore he'll make war on it. It's not there because of Catholics and Adventists. It's there because of Satan. So imagine again, not the Catholics necessarily, but a lot of what's called Protestant denominations, Sunday keepers, who band together to call our country and then even our world to join into these things to assuage God's wrath. People will believe that. People will do it simply out of fear. When they're afraid of dying from the COVID or any number of other massive, bigger things than we got going now, they will do it because it seems to make sense. Then there's going to be some misguided Adventists who are going to be over there going, see, we're not supposed to do that. And they're going to be fighting and arguing. and they're going to mow their lawn on Sunday because darn it, they just will not submit to that beast power thing. That's what the way they think, that's the way they operate. I know that that's a problem. That's wrong. So what's the right response? The right response would be, if they tell me to stop working on Sunday, fine. I don't have to work on Sunday. No, God never told me I had to. If they tell me that I should go to church or go to worship or some meeting, some Bible study on Sunday and Tuesday and Thursday, yeah, okay, let's do it. But at those meetings, I want to be helping people understand the truth about God, which will be in conflict with the prophets of Baal. What I mean by that is the ones that are teaching that God's wrath is up and he's coming after the sinners unless we all do something, right? That's the wrong version about God. That's not Jesus. So whatever meeting I go to on whatever day it's going to be on, I want to help people understand the truth about God, which is going to put me eventually in conflict, if I get to be there for that part, in major conflict with what they're saying versus righteousness by faith and faith alone versus the truth about God's character and the gift of salvation, i.e. even the gift of Sabbath. And why will that be important? Again, it'll be like the little name tag we put on that says, we don't worship that God. We worship the creator God, the one of heaven and earth, the one that created in the 6 days, and then he rested on the seventh day. That's the God whom we worship, and his son was Jesus, and here's his character, and he loves you, and all that. See, it's got to be about the gospel, not about the day. The day is just this badge of distinction. I think I'm very confident that it will someday grow to that kind of a contest. That's kind of like, I don't know if you read the chapter about well, no, I didn't assign this one yet. The three friends with the statue of Nebuchadnezzar's golden statue, and they were all commanded to bow down. Satan is always working at slowly building to get away to just invite everybody to bow down to the wrong God. It'll be connected to the wrong character. It'll be connected to the wrong Sabbath. It'll be connected to the wrong law. It's always what he does, but it's always slow and always careful and methodical, giving people opportunity to really believe the lie. And God's people have to be out there, not pushing what day to go to church on, but who the true God is, what the real character of God is. And then they'll ask, so why do you do that? What's that? Well, I stop on seventh day to remember who the true God of heaven and earth is. And there's the connection. And so that's a quick just tell you what it is summary. I do think that it's a problem the way too many of my denominational family, every chance they get, they pounce on, oh, it's going to be here any day. Well, how do they know that? They're making laws about not going to the grocery store right now. They're not making laws about what day to go to church on. Now, can we get there? Yeah. And when we get there, it'll be a head-to-head contest because they make it one, not because we make it one. And this sort of Adventist mentality of needing to make it one out of every excuse we can find, that's the wrong program. Does that help?
Yeah.
So you can read.
Yeah, I think
Go ahead.
I think the way it was in my head is I had just wondered if it was a symbol that had gotten lost along the way, like the sacrifices had, or not lost, but turned into obligation opposed to righteousness by faith. Which I guess anything could be turned into that.
Yes.
I'm doing this out of obligation opposed to.
That's right.
By faith, not just a sacrifice or just a day of worship.
Yeah, Hannah's sitting next to me and she said that's how she grew up. It was the correct day, but it was all about obligation. It wasn't really about rising by faith. And so once again, that's the version of Sabbath the Jews had when they put Jesus on the cross. They got to hurry up and get him in the tomb before sundown. Why? Because Sabbath's going to start. What? What is that?
Yeah.
That's not Sabbath keeping at all. That was the correct day, but a completely wrong. Yeah, exactly.
My Catholic side of the family, it's like you can do whatever you want 6 days out of the week, and then on Sunday you have to repent. But everything's fine. Like as of Sunday, you're washed and you're clean.
Yeah, it's
and
all
then
clean. You can start
Monday
over.
through Saturday, yeah, you can go back to being a heathen.
Right. See, and if all I did was give you a different day to go to church on, that'd be so shallow, compared to what you are describing there, because what I'm giving you isn't a different day to do the same thing. It's about a God and a character of God and a knowing God, to be able to rest in him, and then a day that connects with that. That's totally different. I wish more of my Adventist family understood this, but there's too many that are still as confused about Sabbath as the Jews were in the time of Christ.
Okay. Well, cool. Thank you for taking time.
Yeah, that's a good intro. You can read if you want. The law is in Exodus 20. Where did I get Genesis from? Exodus 20 is where the Ten Commandments is, if you want to read it. That just gives you, it's good to know it, because it's interesting. Again, a lot of people make rules about Sabbath that aren't in the Bible. I'm like, where'd they get that rule? It's good to read what it actually says, so we know what the real point and meaning is. So you can read that, but also Genesis, 2 and 3, just the whole creation story and how the story of creation fits with this loving God, the creator God, and how Sabbath has its original start. There's one more piece I can throw in for fun if you want. And that is, the Sabbath also assures me that when this is all over, this war, not the war over the day, but the war over truth about God or not. When this is all done and the wicked have rejected him fully and are turned over to the result of sin, they're dead and gone, then God is going to recreate the earth. We're not going to be just inheriting a planet that this sinful age wrecked. All the disaster we've brought on the planet already. Well, wait till it gets done with all these, disasters and whatnot that Satan's going to bring against the earth. Well, so he's going to recreate it. And when he recreates it, there's also the promise that he is going to put you and I and all the others back onto the earth exactly where the story started, which is resting in his righteousness, having his righteousness in us, like Adam and Eve did to start with, but with all the history of what went on to prevent us from say this in the scripture, after the new earth, the people of God will come together to be with him one Sabbath after another, one new moon after another, which is just pointing to the whole idea that started in the garden. So it's like, wow, we're going to get through all this crisis and trial, and now Sabbath even reminds me that he's going to put us back. Some people panic about things like, well, maybe we don't want God to come yet because we haven't got married yet, or we haven't had kids yet, or we haven't been grandparents, or whatever, they keep adding more things on there. But God created them male and female in the creation story. He created them and said, it's not good that man's alone. That was before sin. So if he puts us right back to where we were to begin with, it's going to be included, that it'll be including male and female. And I know the angels, Jesus said, the angels in heaven neither marry nor given in marriage, with them there's neither male nor female. But he was basically directing our attention to the angels are happy. They don't worry about those kind of things. They're just there praising God. So maybe if we got there, we could worry about the rest later. That's basically what I think Jesus was saying. Because the question was, if you married this guy and the woman married after 7 brothers, now whose wife is she going to be? And Jesus is looking at them going, you're all dying. You're going to eternal death. But what does that question matter at all about whose wife she will be?
Right.
So he's directing their attention onto something that's important. But I don't think in any way that detracts from those who do come to him, surrender to him, that he will put them where he intended in the beginning for eternity, which is male and female. I'm not saying I know with who. I don't have to worry about that. He'll take care of that. But it will be to be what we were originally created to be. And that's part of the seal or the sign of Sabbath. It's all fitted in there. I can tell you, I've shared this idea of Sabbath with some of my, well, one was a group at an evangelical free church. I joined a men's Bible study for, I think it was almost a year and a half. That was one example of where I shared this concept of Sabbath. And they sat there looking at me dumbfounded with their mouths open, tears running down their eyes, saying, wow, how come you guys never told us about this before? Well, it's because that's not how it's normally taught. That's, why. But I watched how they saw it fit together with Rise by Faith and saw it as something beautiful, not something to fight about, right? Which showed me that when we present it right, yeah, there's going to be Satan's hatred against it, and those whom he can control, they will come with hatred against it. But in the meantime, that's not our job. Our job isn't to find it and argue and fight. Our job is to enjoy it and then offer it and leave it at that. And which is why you're getting the answer I mean you're getting. All right. You didn't have a second question? Yeah.
No, not tonight. I'll wait for another night.
That was a good one though. Glad you brought it up. So you can try to see what you can explain of that to Barb and see if she gets it.
I think she got it. I think she was more worried about portraying it like she was trying to convince me to keep the Saturday Sabbath. That's what I got out of her conversation. And in fact, at one point she just said, she kind of started explaining it, and then she was like, I don't know if I should talk about this because I don't want to push my convictions on you.
Well, and part of it is because she came from, these are just the rules, keep it. And she's gotten rid of a lot of that.
Right.
But still, when she talks about the Sabbath, there's just a little bit of that in there still. And she knows it, and she's not sure how to totally get it all out, which is why your questions and your challenge are good for her, because that helps her rethink it.
And she keeps telling me that. I come with a bunch of baggage. I don't really know how to explain it. Maybe we should ask Bobby.
Well, so you guys could read, eventually if you want to, in Desire of Ages, there's a chapter called The Sabbath. That's where I learned about it. Born and raised in the church, I was 21 years old, and I read that chapter, and I went, oh my goodness, this is not what we believe. So it's very good in that chapter.
Right.
Kind of detailing it out. It's certainly not something, again, that I would encourage anybody to say, oh, I'm excited about that. Let me go beat on all my friends and tell them how wrong they are. No, there's no value in that. That's why I tell the story about my neighbor who, she didn't really know much about the Sabbath, and I gave her basically what I gave you, and she got all excited about it, and she said, oh, well, I want to learn to start keeping it. How do I do that? So instead of giving her a list of rules, I told her, why don't you just start by trying to specifically spend time on Sabbath more with your kids, something special, something that you don't normally do during the week. Spend a little special time with the kids. Spend a little special time with your husband. And she said, well, what if he goes to work? Never mind. If he goes to work, do it when he comes back. So we tried to make it so it wasn't about putting rules on other people, anyway, she did get really excited about it. She did learn to enjoy it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So when she went to the women's evangelical free Bible study, same church that I went to years before, only this was the women's group, not the men's group, and I had never presented this to the women's group. So now my friend across the street, Chantel was her name, she went there to that study, and after 2 or 3 times, she's so excited about what she was learning about God, they said, well, could you share your testimony with us? And so she starts sharing, I just was in the world and this and that and troubles. And then I started learning this stuff about God, and she's, just talking about it, which was great. And then she said, I'm learning to keep Sabbath. And she just kind of worked it in with everything else. And it like froze the whole Bible study. They're like, wait, whoa, what? You're doing what? And the leader said to her, well, you don't have to do that anymore, right? And Chantel looked at them and said, why would I not want to do that? Right? their question made no sense to her at all because there was nothing rule-oriented or baggage about it. And she's still in this town. She still comes and studies with us, now and again. And often she's telling stories about how, again, she's learning how to sacrifice self and be loving and kind to her kids, her husband, work through things. And she says, and I need to review Wrath again. And I need to review, and then she'll comment about, I got to get back to spending more time with them on Sabbath. And why did she say that? I never brought it up. I never said to her, well, your life's falling apart because you quit keeping Sabbath, right? That's what the other religions do. This is not that. This is about your ring is meaningful if your relationship with your husband is meaningful. And then you cling to its value, not because it makes you married, but because of the meaning that it's connected to. That's how it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Good enough for now?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good to see you. See you maybe Sabbath. Well, you're working on Saturday, so you tried to put it on and listen to it. That seems like kind of hard to do. What time you get off?
I get off at 5:30.
Oh, okay.
It kind of depends on what I'm doing. Last Saturday, I was just organizing dog food and cat food. So I put it on and was kind of listening. I was kind of just trying to at least it's either I'm going to listen to that or music. And so
Right.
I would rather listen to you guys talk. So I was just listening to you guys in the background. I mean, I didn't really get a lot out of it, but it was just, it's nice to just hear it in the background and hear, hear some discussions here and there. So
well, we'll be back on Saturday, this one. So maybe we'll see you then. Okay. Good night, Shady.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
God bless. Yep.
All right. Bye.
Good night.